other issues we've had over the last week, but we are back again. As per usual, Jax, start the podcast. Everyone can hear the Discord noise from the bot in the Discord telling us that the channel's live. So, Yay. I am going to probably ask you to monitor the chat again. To the bots. I'm going to.
That's fair enough. I can do that.
You monitor the chat. I will just do everything else. I will sort it out. So, background game today is Rogue Command. Sorry. We've got. I haven't watched 28 Days Later yet. 20 Years Later yet. I don't know. I can't remember. Is it out? Is it already out this week, or is it next week? It's out. I can't remember.
It's out this week. It's not out yet.
It's out tomorrow, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
It'll be a Friday, so it'll be out tomorrow. But yeah, 28 Years Later. I'm excited for that movie because of the franchise is brilliant.
I very much am looking forward to it. I've been watching. I've caught myself up to date.
I did recently rewatch the original.
Oh yeah, so the original came out on streaming for a bit. You could buy it, and now they're doing a whole. It's coming back again in some form. There is legal issues around its release. They've had to do deals and stuff, but we are only getting, unfortunately, the theatrical release version and not the full release version that came out on DVD. So we are missing some bits.
Well, to be fair, beggars can't be choosers. That's the problem.
No, we can't, and that's fair enough. I'm happy that I'm just happy that I've actually got a copy now, even if it is digital. I lost mine many years ago.
It's such a good film, like legitimately.
It really is.
Like there is no, it's just.
I'm sure we've waxed lyrical on this film before, but it was one of the last great guerrilla films in London.
It's also
some of its most fantastic.
To be fair, it's also a feat that they got. Like they managed to shut London down and make London actually look dystopian.
Look, that's it. No, they didn't shut London down. That's one of the great things about it. It was guerrilla filming. They went there on the bright sunniest, the day with the most amount of sun. They got there at stupid o'clock in the morning, and they knocked over a bus. He did the scene as they could with no one on there, literally just saying, "Oh, quickly, hold up." Once they finished the scene, they jacked that bus back up, strapped it to something, and got the fuck out of there. If you actually look in the ends of those scenes, you can actually still see cars driving up and down in the distance because they, like I say, they didn't get to lock anything off. It was all done ad hominem. Ad lib. It was great.
Oh yeah, but it's one of those films that is like, it's how do you make London look terrifying? There's no cars anywhere.
Yeah, they did so well. Danny Boyle did fantastically.
Oh, yeah.
And like I say, and one thing, films like that will never be made again like that in London. We've got so much CCTV, we've got so many more police, there's so many more quick responses for things like terrorism since 9/11 and 7/7, that if you saw a group of people toppling over, bringing a bus over on the back of a truck, unstrapping the truck, driving the truck off, then toppling it over, you're going to have people on your arse in seconds in the centre of London.
Oh yeah. I realised I was building these turrets wrong. Okay, but yeah, it's one of those films that's just, it is a product of its time, but it's not just that, it's just...
I mean, it's another thing to point out is the number of... So the first film in particular is the number of people that weren't majorly famous who were in that film that became really famous.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Cillian Murphy and Christopher Eccleston.
Well, Christopher Eccleston sort of had a somewhat career before the film, though. Because he was in a lot of other movies. He wasn't famous, but he was in a lot of other British-made films prior to that film.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't
internationally
famous.
No, wasn't Doctor Who famous though. But he wasn't kind of somewhat internationally famous. Not international, sorry, in Britain famous for a lot of other British films.
They've done a few bits and bobs. Yeah, he's like these and so many others. But then by the second film, the first film becomes such a hit. You couldn't, although a lot of these people were still early in their career, they were already big names. Idris Elba, you've got Jason Renner.
I forget. I always forget his name. The one that's it's Robbie Coltrane. Not Coltrane. You know which?
Not Robbie. No, I know he's Robbie. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's
you know who I mean?
Spotting. Yeah, in Train Spotting. He's in Star Trek, Stargate universe.
He's in a lot of things. He's a really good actor. He's in a lot of things.
Paul Monty is probably the one most people in the UK know him for. Bloody hell!
What?
It's his name. It's getting on my nerves. I can easily search it up, and I don't want to. Robert Carlyle.
That's it. Robert Carlyle.
There we go. Yeah. So he. It was. I mean, it was kind of. He was the big star. Weirdly enough.
No. It's such a. The second film though, I did love the way they subverted and had everything break out a second time.
The way everything adapts and changes, and the issue of being difference between having an immunity and not being contagious.
Well, the difference between being a carrier and being like immune to the disease, but you're a carrier, and the difference between, someone that isn't. It's such a good way of doing it.
Here's an interesting thing, because this is something I've always about these films, and it's something that a friend of mine pointed out. Well, not pointed out, but we was talking about it, and he was like, "No, that's not how it happened." And it really does come down to an interpretation of how you think the endings are. The first film, it's mentioned that there has been reports of stuff going on in Europe, but for the most part it was an English thing. But the disease had too sort of time for it to affect anyone. And then by the second film, it's like, no, it was just England. And then at the end, Europe's fucked. Well, I always thought, so here's it. In my head, it was like, well, they weren't telling you the truth about Europe, and then they've got there, and it's just as bad as England.
Oh yeah. Well,
and my friend was like, no. The helicopter crashed, and those kids have still got. They're still spreading the virus, so they've turned it. And I was like, no, you've got the wrong interpretation. And result back. There is, from one of the people that worked on it. Apparently, the whole thing about being an infection across Europe was meant to be done as like tongue in cheek to scare people, to say, look, it's everywhere. There is nowhere else to go, so you might as well stay here. Because the virus would actually turn someone too far.
I did love that. There was a really good way of the first film had a really good way of establishing the rules of the infection, though. Like, the opening sequence where he goes in the church, starts getting chased, then meets the other two, who then help him save his life, and the other guy gets blood, and the minute it's just the sheer coldness that the shock of the minute of her, she just turns around without thinking and shoots him, and you're like, what? Oh, wow. It is just like, it is established the rules of the infection so fast. You know what I mean? Without it wasn't like we're going to go this over explanation. It was just, you get blood on you, you're dead. Like the minute you get any bodily fluids, you're dead. That was it.
It's got to get inside you, yeah.
It's just
so
cool.
That's why. So because it causes because weirdly enough, it does cause a problem to the end. and they even mentioned this on the director's commentary, which I remember from the DVD back in the day. So they'd already done the scene where the crow drops the blood on the taxi driver's eye, and it turns him. And then the next big scene involving that ideal is when Cillian Murphy is in the pit of bodies and comes out and kills everyone, or goes through the soldiers. Now, the original idea was he was going to be rage infected. And that's actually what it wasn't just him being angry and rageful and showing dichotomy. He was meant to be rage infected. Then they were going to give him a blood transfusion that cleans his blood out, and then he's fine. And they were just sitting there going, if one drop of blood in the eye turns you into that rage thing, can you actually get all that blood out of someone once it's in their system?
No, because it'll just replicate and mutate the blood fast.
Yeah, that's it. So they're literally having that argument around the table afterwards, going, shit.
We brought ourselves into a corner here.
Yeah.
But it established...
they kind of explain that they show that he's not that. And then later on, weirdly enough, in the second film, they show that there is people that are immune. And if that was a fault in the beginning, they could have had one of his eye colours changed by the end of it. But they didn't. That's not what they did. Still perfect. One of the great films. It's up there, in my opinion. It's up there with Back to the Future 1 as, if not perfect, almost perfect film. 28 Days Later.
Oh, it is. It's in those films. It's just.
I'm a big zombie movie fan. This is not a zombie movie.
No,
it is. They are rage-infected humans. They are not dead. And you can actually kill them through normal means. They're just hyper-adrenaline.
Well, they starve. What is it? They starve. They basically starve to death at the end. And that's actually the reason how they got rid of the infection in the end of the first, is that it's outlived them.
Well, zombies do technically starve to death as well. So I mean, there is that. But no, these are living. They will die of old age.
Technically, zombies don't starve if they rot to death, because eventually they just keep rotting and rot so far that the body just decomposes. Whereas zombies...
Yeah, but in some zombie lore, by eating flesh, they sort of they keep the other bits moist, as it were, and it's that's what keeps them going. And in some it doesn't. Or we could do a whole video on different zombie laws.
We could do a whole video on all the different zombie movies, to be fair. There are so many zombie films that I have watched that I'm just like...
There is.
Like the original Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, and Day of the Dead.
Well, yeah, the Romeros were a classic. There's some great Spanish...
don't get me wrong, I love the remakes. The remakes are pretty cool. I like them. But I will always say this, right? I don't know if you'll agree with me on this, on my opinion of this one, Jax, but I will always say that zombies that move really slow are actually, to me, scarier than the ones that run. Because the ones that run might be able to, oh shit, you're not outrunning them, they're never going to stop running. But the reason that you usually get, it's the walking ones usually kill people is because they're just so persistent. It's the fact that they never tire, same with the running ones, and it's the fact that eventually you just get, it's not one zombie that's the problem, it's there's a horde of them, there's no way past.
Yeah, so I was not a fan of the running zombies, which were predominantly they were a feature of the Snyder Gunn collaboration of the later remake. I
did like that George Romero revisited his Dawn of the Dead franchise, though, with Diary of the Dead.
Oh yeah, no,
I like Diary of the Dead.
He and his son come back quite often at World, and there's always plans for more. Was it? They did there was two films, very similar names.
And then Land of the Dead.
Evil one right now.
I like Land.
No,
of the
not
Dead.
Land of the Dead. But these were basically the same premise. Came out exactly the same time. No one sued each other.
You don't know about Return of the Living Dead, are you?
No, 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 no.
You know, the
So
brains,
this was
more brains.
no. So what it was a found footage film of zombies. Whereas, and once again, one came in the same premise of you. It was about a survivor watching the tapes of things he had found, almost like a video game. To be fair,
Yeah, the other one you're on about is Diary of the Dead, which is the George A. Romero one.
Diary of the Dead, and so there is another one of a very similar name. Like I say, so one I can't remember which way around it goes either. So like I say, one is the found footage film where they keep going through it and they're finding more and more footage up until the end where they're like, oh, like they're going towards survivors, and they get there and the place has been overrun and they're fucked.
Well, Diary of the Dead's the one where you're following a group of teenagers through the outbreak. That's the Romero one.
The other one, okay, so I say the other one is where, oh, maybe I'm getting bits mixed up then. So I remember the other one where it's a circular film, in many ways, because you start watching it through one lens, and then you watch it through the lens of other people finding their videotape and watching it, and one of them's a cheerleader, and then at the end you find the zombie cheerleader, as you keep finding bits of their video. Fucking hilarious.
There's also Quarantine, which was a pretty good one as well. That was a really good zombie film.
Quarantine. There was.
That's the found footage one where they're where it's in a building. It's inside like it's a Spanish one, I believe. It's she's Spanish. It's like she's a news reporter in like a building that's being locked down for quarantine, and the quarantine is and it's zombies, and like it ends with like the original person that was infected basically eating them in the vent. And it's pretty good. Because it's basically what happens in a zombie outbreak. The beginning of the outbreak, it's everyone is trapped in this building with the zombies, like everything going to hell. Just like because it's such a good film because it focuses because it only focuses on a small thing. Like it doesn't focus on like the outbreak happening all over everywhere. It focuses on the outbreak in such a small confined area, so you get to know the characters more because they can focus on the characters because the entire frame device is just an apartment building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is a really good way of doing it, if I'm honest. Like this, I've noticed that it's like with video games. Like the smaller the area the game focuses on, the more detailed the game can go into for characters and stuff. Like it's same with films. Like if you have a smaller area to focus on, you can kind of get more details for characters and stuff out.
Famously, if you're a Mystery Science Theatre fan, you've got the old. So, like I said, there was different types because there were magic ones. There was a classic zombie film called White Zombie, which a witch doctor magical zombification, and that was basically zombie movies for a very, very long time.
Oh yeah, I think it was Romero that turned zombies from the whole like voodoo sort of thing to what we have now. It was the Romero zombie movies that changed zombies to be what they are today. That's kind of what happened. Romero made the Night of the Living Dead, and that would change the bloody genre.
So weirdly enough, it's not. It's a little bit before Romero. I'm gonna have to look it up. Teenage Zombies. So this is when it stops being really mystical, and this is a nerve gas. Scientists have created a nerve gas, which then turns off the bodies but leaves a small part of the brain going. Still around then, you've got tons of zombie movies. But a nice little mention at that time. There are zombies in Planet 9 from outer space because the aliens resurrect a cemetery to fight in, because of course they had clips from an old zombie film that they could obviously dump into their movie.
To be fair, it's like is it Carnodon, which is a dinosaur movie about a big dinosaur, where the sequels just reuse scenes directly from the original film. Like, they straight up just use scenes from the original film again, just redubbed over whenever they're showing the dinosaur. This is back when the dinosaur was, clay animation, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so big run where it starts to become just sort of more no real reason for it. Is Curse of the Living Corpse. Now, you can see why that might be one of Romero's films to have noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Romero doesn't really come into it quite a little bit. Yeah. Romero is obviously the god of it, but the very, very small chunk of it.
Oh yeah, he's the guy that
the Spanish did. The Spanish and the Italians were really good at doing body horror, so they have some fantastic zombie films out there to have a look at. But yeah, they're more on the mystical side. The Americans and the British were the real big on the not finding a mystical side, that or just not giving a reason at all. Or something scientific.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I would like to give a shout out though for one particular show that did zombies really, really well.
Which was?
It ran for a number of seasons. Which was Z Nation.
That was a good show.
Did the basic zombie really, really well, and then throughout the run of the series, because of different situations in which the zombies had been left in, they had different, not doing much different, in some cases different abilities, but just different variety. One of my favourite ones being the zombies that were left near a radiation leak at an old power facility. The radiation gave them a slight amount of intelligence back. So they could actually do a bit more like tactical shit, chasing people down.
Mm-hmm.
They had runners. They did have runners. They had weed zombies, which I thought was freaking hilarious. A bunch of zombies died in a weed factory, and two things happened. One, it made the weed really powerful. The smoke from said weed, if ingested by a zombie, gave them their brain back for a bit, and they became they could start to become conscious, and it just fucking hilarious. But they also gave us on screen Zombie Bear.
Zombie bears.
Zombie Bear was freaking hilarious.
I can imagine it being
hilarious.
Wheel
of Cheese zombie was awesome. It was a massive wheel of cheese that started rolling down a hill.
Wasn't there one Chicago. That was wasn't there one that was like a bunch of zombies just in a ball? Or I think I'm different.
Yes. Oh no, you're right. Yeah. So there was two long running gags on that. One was zombie cheese, which was like I say, a giant wheel of cheese rolling down a hill in Chicago, I believe it was. And just kept picking up zombies, and throughout the season they went back to it. And yes, there was another one in which they knocked over a giant globe that started rolling, and every time they cut back to it, it was just one big mass of rolling zombies.
Sounds about right.
Like I say, and even along with one of their main characters, the Murphy, which was
he was a zombie that could turn people back from being a zombie or something. Or no,
he could control them. He had an immunity. He had an immunity to zombie infection. So he could get bit, but he would never truly turn. But what he could do was control all basic zombies. And pardon me, if he bit a human, they would slowly turn in a weird way. They wouldn't become zombies, but they would become almost completely beholden to him. And once that spell was broken, he could break that off as well. Once he stopped it, they were normal. but up until that point, he would have control over them. Yeah, he's a good character. It was a great show. Kind of went
off the rails.
It kept getting cancelled. And then when it came back, they were like, "Right, let's go balls to the wall." And people liked it. It went balls to the wall a bit too much.
It's one of them shows. It's one of them shows that it was a little crazy, but it was worth it because it was just the stupid shit that happens was just funny.
Yeah, I mean, one of the creepiest things, and one of the things I didn't like from the Snyder James Gunn that film was the baby zombie. I found it very creepy. I found it very horrible. They do a very similar thing in Z Nation, and it is still very creepy, very nasty, very horrible. But it's different. It's done it's done in such a way it doesn't feel like it feels like it's definitely something you would see, not something just to gross you out.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, I still think Snyder's zombie film is terrible, and no one will ever convince me it wasn't.
Yeah, no, I mean it was definitely different. I've got to say it's one of the films I do kind of like of his. There's some really good bits in it. You know, you can see that someone on the team, and I got to say, I assume it's James Gunn because he wrote it.
The Netflix one, The Heist of the Dead.
No, I'm not talking about that.
How about that movie that Snyder made?
No.
That one's so bad. It had potential to be good, but it's just like, in true Snyder fashion, it's just he did something that ruined it again. Like,
well, the problem with that is that he wanted to make, and you can see this by what happens next in his franchise, is that he wanted to make a really good heist film like Ocean's 11.
Oh yeah.
And he can't do that. So yeah, he made a heist film with zombies.
Mm-hmm.
To hide the fact he can't do Ocean's 11. What came out of that movie? Was it another zombie film, or was it another heist film directly after that? Oh, it was a prequel heist film. It's almost like that's what he wanted the money for. Awful. All awful.
And the worst thing about that, it's Army of the Dead, he called it. That's what he called the fucking movie.
Yeah, it's Army of the Dead, and I can't remember what the prequel heist movie was. It's kind of like all this stuff. Loads of hype, loads of promise, just no substance. No joy.
I will still stand by my opinion that the Snyder Cut version of Justice League is shit. What?
I mean, no, it's weird enough. It's not my favourite thing. Is it better than the Joss Whedon version? Is that because it had double the budget, multiple years worth of rewrites, loads and loads of hindsight? Yes. Was it a failure for HBO Max? Yes.
Yeah, it was such a bad failure for Warner Brothers, the Snyder Cut version of that they scrapped that version of the DCU. Like,
well, no, I mean, so here's the thing. That wasn't Warner Brothers technically didn't pay for that Snyder Cut. HBO Max did. HBO Max owned that, and that was their baby. They were gonna that was gonna make them billions. No one wanted it. No one wanted it enough to.
That's what I find funny is that we see the Snyder Cult thing of, you know, because we see it. I do like James Gunn's response to the whole Snyder thing. He's like, I think we'll be fine. You have to have haters, otherwise you're not gonna get. Like, I like his just complete, just blasé response to it. And he's like, If I give them time of day, they're just going to get louder. So I'm just going to ignore. I'm just going to not acknowledge them, and I'll acknowledge other people. They're like, yeah.
He knows how much of it is hot stuff and just match retweetings.
It's also they like to criticize anything to do with the film, with it going, oh, it's like this one would get beaten by like Batman, and it's like, no, this is Superman as he should be, in my opinion. But watching the latest trailer, like, he's getting beat up, and I'm like, Superman isn't all powerful. There are villains that are actually capable of beating Superman. That's the whole point of him.
It's like the other thing is the big controversy that they're all jumping on at the moment is Batman. Who's going to be the Batman? It should definitely be quick. Matt Reeves Batman is the Batman we should have. And James Gunn's like, it's not our Batman.
We're not doing Batman. I actually like his response to, I don't want to do a Batman movie just for the sake of doing Batman. Like,
yeah. In his most recent interview, he actually has said that there was a film on the slate that everyone wanted to do, and everyone was like all for, and we're just not doing it now. The script, the way it was, we're not doing it. The script weren't there.
Yeah, I fully agree with him. He's like, he's
and a lot of, and yeah, we'll say I agree with that idea. A lot of people were thinking that was Batman Brave and the Bold, because that is going to be a tricky sell. The way that they originally announced it.
I think it's because it's as he says, he doesn't want to do a Batman movie just for the sake of making a Batman movie. He wants it to actually, when he makes the Batman, he wants it to actually fit. As in, there needs to be a reason for him to be there. You can't just go, oh, it's Batman because we need to have Batman in the franchise. You know what I mean? And I actually agree with that. That's a very smart and logical decision. Because I'm honestly, if you just put the hero in for no reason other than, oh, we want to include Batman in the front. We need to have a Batman film. It's not going to have a good script.
Yeah. It's like there's another part of the interview was weird enough talking about Batman. They were discussing Batman's cameo in Creature Commandos, and he was like, well, actually, the original image showed a lot more, and I was like, whoa, we're not ready to announce any of that, including what he's wearing. Or shadow. You know, this is the kind of shape and age we're going for. Just that's the silhouette.
Yeah. Like, so we've also got season 2 of that Batman animated show that's on Amazon. The one that we both think is really good, Cape Crusader. Because I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I liked it. I actually enjoyed it. Like, a lot of people complain, oh, why are they reimagining like certain villains? Like, what? It's not Harley Quinn because there's no Joker. And I'm like, actually, I like it because they're doing it in a. It's clearly an Elseworld story. Like, that's clearly from it. It's an Elseworld story. But I'm like, I'm all for that because I'm sorry, but we don't need another retelling of the same Batman universe as we've seen 100 times. Give me the Elseworld stuff. Give me the Batman from other universes. With like where villains and heroes are slightly different and stuff. Because honestly, that's when it gets fun. I mean, I like seeing the different versions of characters. I get the whole love. Like, I get that in DC. I think in DC, I'm not entirely sure, but I think for DC, Elseworld stuff isn't as popular in DC as it is in Marvel's. Like, the multiverse stuff for Marvel is, in like comics wise, not films wise, is generally like quite one of the beloved parts of the Marvel comic stuff is the multiverse stuff. But I don't know how much it is in DC because, as I say, I'm not as
there
much.
Are loads.
I know there's loads, but I don't think it's as popularish as the Marvel.
Earth 2 and Earth 3 in particular are very much loved universes. Earth 2 is where you get Jay Garrick in the Silver Age stuff. So whenever Jay Garrick in his little tin hat runs over to meet Barry Allen, it's usually from Earth 2. Earth 3 is the criminal one, and in particular is where we get Ultraman from, who is the villainous version, who may be appearing in the new Superman film.
He is. He's the villain of the film. We already know that.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
But we may not be getting the Earth 3 version. We may be getting the one of the other versions of him, which is the version where he's another person that was launched from Krypton that just went through something and mutated and is stronger than Clark. It's not the one anyone cares about. It really isn't the one anyone cares about. But,
um,
but yeah.
Yeah, and then there is. It's like saying, "Oh, it's Spider-Man," and going and saying, "No, it's Ben Riley Spider-Man." Before he scars, but no one cares. No one cares.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're getting that, but Earth X is a massively popular.
Isn't that that's the one where that's the Nazi one, isn't it?
That is the Nazi one.
And the reason I remember that is because of the Flash.
Yep.
I have noticed recently that there's a lot of hate.
Flashpoint as well.
No, a lot of hate for that TV series. Like, seems more recent than it used to be.
It was getting a lot of hate towards the end of its run. People seem to now feel like, for some reason, it's something that they can dig at, as if it was like a shit show. It was always shit. It wasn't. It was a very good show. They did very well with their budget.
Personally, as watching it, they did the best they could with, one, not having a movie level budget, because let's be honest, they didn't have a movie level budget in that show.
They still did better than most of the DC movies produced.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I would argue anyone down to the ground. Their King Shark, best live action King Shark that we've ever seen.
I will agree with that.
Hands down beats James Gunn one. I don't care if it's meant to be a different version of King Shark. The look, a billion times that just the way it looks, it's night and day. And two, the Gorilla Grodd King Shark fight.
That was so good.
People nowadays going, "Oh, you can tell it's CG." What do you mean you can tell it's CG? It's a giant shark, humanoid shark fighting a giant gorilla. What do you mean it looks CG? Stuck my nut. Of course it looks CG, because do you know what it is? Fucking CG.
I know. It's like, it's supposed to be CG. If it looks...
But like,
it's
on a budget. It's on a budget that is a mere fraction
of what
special effects
this way,
of any movie.
It's on a budget that's a mere fraction of even the budget spent on the Flash movie, and the Flash movie CG is shit. It's better than the Flash movie CG.
That's the thing. A whole episode is a fraction of the budget of the effects budget on one of those films.
Yeah,
and people slag it off for how it looks. I'm like, you can't. That makes no sense.
I don't know. It's like, yeah, some of the storylines weren't the best, but like a lot of people going, "Oh, Barry forgets he has like this." Barry keeps getting his powers and this, and I'm like, that's kind of like the whole shtick with the Flash in comics, because if Barry doesn't forget, Barry or Wally or any of them don't forget that they have super speed or they're that broken, there's this kind of thing called they'd be broken as hell and beat everyone, because the Flash really is that broken. It's kind of the...
Otherwise, every episode would be, oh, the Flash goes back in time. Yeah. And stops the crime before it happens.
Yeah.
And one of my favourite ones is like, oh, they all ended up giving him was speedsters and people with light powers.
That was only the first 3 seasons.
But even so,
and that's what I mean. Like, I had one of my friends about that one. There was like, there's only the first 3 seasons where the bad guys were speedsters. Every other major villain wasn't a speedster until you got to the last 2. Which was Red Death and, what's it called?
Well, we always had Thorn doing something in the background. I mean, I get what they mean, but like,
but he was never
the comic books, which that's what it is.
Yeah, because it's only a species. It's like Superman. Only someone who has a similar power set and similar capabilities to Superman can actually stand up to Superman. That's kind of the point.
Otherwise, it's not a story anymore.
No, it's just him beating the shit out of some random person. It's the same with Barry. The only people that can fight Barry, technically actually fight Barry, is another speedster. Because, let's be honest here...
Or someone who has the ability to slow shit down.
Yeah.
It's such a weird...
I mean, we have to think if you out-thunk him the entire way. When we got...
him.
Yeah, DeVoe. We got DeVoe. DeVoe was a brilliant villain. I loved DeVoe's entire story arc.
That was very good.
I also love the subtle bit. I did love the foreshadowing all the through. I was like, because I didn't realize that was Nora whenever she kept popping up until the finale when she throws the punch. I was like, wait a minute. At that point, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no real reason to have thought it would be a Nora because traditionally in the comics it would have been Bart.
But I also like how they did it where we didn't have Bart originally. It was just Nora, the only kid, and then eventually, Bart. Wait, what?
See, I do have a bit of an issue with that whole run because the showrunner that came in at that point and took over and commissioned her to come in kind of uses her in everything. No matter what he's doing, he finds a place. And of that stuff should have been Flash coming back. And would have been a great arc there to bring, like, to give more of him of a story. And there were so many storylines there that were with her run that were Kid Flash stories all the way, every step of the way. And this was a guy that was available until we went, fuck it, I'm not available anymore. Yeah, he had he got badly squeezed out for no reason, for a character that really wasn't necessary. Yeah, that's my only thing.
Oh, the one that played Wally, yeah, no. Because Wally was playing...
Because he was
Kid Flash
very good.
Even though in that technical period of the actual thing, he is supposed to be the main Flash. Not, as you have pointed out.
Yeah, well, yes. So, well, not at that point in the series. It's very weird. So the original Flash. So the original second Flash that wasn't Jay Garrick, Barry Allen, he dies in Crisis, and then for like 20 real years plus, the character of Barry Allen, the character of the Flash has been Wally West. The interesting thing is when they made the TV series, nearly all of the traits they gave Barry Allen were Wally West traits. So basically, the character we see on screen, for the most part, a lot of the things we love about him, from the Wally West comic book character, not the Barry Allen character. So things like the one lightning rod, that's Wally West and Linda Park's thing. She is his lightning rod and brings him back. Yeah, so it's just quite funny.
Oh yeah, to be fair though,
I mentioned shifting as well. That wasn't a Barry Allen thing. Barry Allen could go back in time and dimension shift with assistance. He needed the dimensional treadmill, or he needed the backpack. Wally West, on the other hand, was so attuned to the Speed Force, he could just do it. He's a pretty cool character. Right.
Oh yeah, it's just... Oh yeah, but it's one of those things in regards to it is, we know there's always going to be change for shows. I just find it hilarious that it is a lot of the traits that we love about Barry now were originally Wally's traits.
Yeah. And it's
the same with, like, when people go when people try and say, oh, why is this thing? It's like with example, the MCU, and we go, oh, it's not comic accurate, why is this changed from the comic? I'm like, I'm sorry, if we had the MCU exactly like the comics, the very first film would have been the Fantastic Four again. Would have been their origin, because, you know, that would have been the start of it.
No, I understand what they're saying there. I mean, they want characters to be look and act the way they do from the comic books. I like that. I mean, that's something that we both want. We've said that before. You know, we can actually start seeing X-Men in X-Men costumes. So I mean, I get. I mean, no one's asking for things to be made in exactly the same order.
Oh no, some people not. No, I'm like, some people go, why is this story different from the comics? And I'm like, well, MCU's always been different from the comics. I mean, for starters, the person that made Ultron is Tony Stark in this universe.
there is a good reason for difference.
Yeah, there's a good reason for difference because they didn't have certain characters until like later, and also
you don't have all the characters that are licensed.
it's also the fact that, let's be honest, some of those characters, like, and a lot of people seem to forget one thing about the MCU is that they took a risk when on the characters they picked for their first 3 films. They weren't even planning to make them to be connected. That was the thing. Iron Man was just thrown out there, and it was just, oh yeah, maybe let's make an Iron Man movie, and then it worked, and and all 3 of those films took off, and they were like, oh well, because a lot of the early MCU, like, people go, oh, it was all interconnected. It's like, no, it wasn't. They had to actually. That's why when we had Thor 3, Ragnarok with the whole, with Hela and the glove. When she pushes the glove away,
yeah.
They actually had to. That was a retcon because of that. Originally, that was meant to be the Infinity Gauntlet, but then we started the Thanos saga, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, there were a number of changes and things. I mean, one of the things that is forgotten, as well is that there was no, when those films were made. Yes, they were given a hint of interconnection with the Samuel Jackson thing at the end, which was included in the Hulk movie.
Yep.
But there was no MCU. These were just meant to be these characters that were going to be interconnected.
There's no big overarching plot connecting them all together yet until
Disney wasn't involved.
No. It was also it was Marvel's last ditch attempt to actually stay afloat when they were going down, because they were like, we need someone to stay afloat. We are literally about to go to hell.
We were about to go bust again. And
they took a chance. And a lot of people don't seem to get Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor were the bottom of the barrel. There is a reason that those characters only ever really sold well in a certain series of comics known as the Avengers. That's the only time they ever did well, really.
Towards that point in time, I mean, they had all lost their luster. Yeah. I mean, they had their fans. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, now they're different. Now it is different. But I'm on about. But back.
Yeah, here's the thing. Here is the big thing. Is that even talking about back then, and accuracy. Original Tony Stark was a playboy, and yes, you got a bit of that, but he became an alcoholic. A major alcoholic, womanizer, everything. They showed a lot of that in the first 2, and took it down when they knew that they were going to Disney.
Well, so and also they deliberately they avoided the alcoholism, and instead the thing that gave him the awakening was, in that universe, the thing that made him get the awakening stuff was the first movie instead, because they knew that they were aiming to have gained that kid.
He started to get pointed. Well, they if you actually watch, you do start him see him drinking ahead of in the first film. In the second film, there's quite a lot of heavy drinking, and then all of a sudden he's getting poisoned by the metal in his chest, and that's what's making him ill.
Because they had to change the reason for why does he have to change his life?
They had to change the reason, why he's actually getting ill. It's not cirrhosis of the liver; it's poisoning, metal poisoning. So you do see those changes.
Oh yeah.
And you were never going to get Demon in the Bottle. But the big one that no one complains about because no one has read the comic books enough to care, because it hasn't been a thing for a while. Thor, when he walked around on Earth every day, had his own identity the same way as Tony Stark is Tony Stark, and then Iron Man when he's Iron Man. And he had Dr. Don Blake, and he was a doctor for most of his time, or a paramedic, depending on where you are in the story. And they didn't go along those lines.
No. Well, it's also they got a reference to it in there. With the clothes.
Boyfriend, Dr. Don Blake,
with the clothes. But it's the same thing of but it's also in the comics. Iron Man is Tony's bodyguard. Even though he is Tony, it's for majority of the comics run at start, he's always
all the
his
early
bodyguard.
Runs, it's the bodyguard,
No, I'm not Iron Man. Iron Man's my bodyguard. That was the thing with Tony in the early runs. He never revealed he was Iron Man. But the MCU, they changed it up and just had him go, and just had him reveal his identity.
Oh, Iron Man.
Yeah. And it's like, no one complains about that change to his character, because, and shit. It's like,
so there's always going to be change.
Oh yeah, there's always change. Like, there's change in the MCU, really, because the MCU is based off, technically, Marvel's Darkest Universe. If you read the storylines, most of the storylines are the Ultimate Universe version of everything.
Well, very similar runs, or very similar beats.
Not as dark, obviously, but that's where Nick Fury or Samuel Jackson actually originally comes from. In the comics, he is the ultimate Sam Jackson. He's the ultimate version of Nick Fury, not the normal Nick Fury. He's only the normal Nick Fury in the comics now, because his name in the comics is Michael Fury, who is Nick's son, who became Nick Fury instead. Like, and no one complains about that. The fact that like, when they go on about this is modern MCU, right? Go, oh, why are they race swapping Cap? And I'm like, none of you complained when they race swapped Nick Fury.
Because no one remembers it. And weirdly enough, if you do want to go see a nice comic book accurate version, well, say comic book accurate, looking wise-ish accurate version of Nick Fury, there is a fantastic film called Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., starring David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury. I shit you not, when he said, "Do I get a talking car?" and he said, and the studio went, "No, Nick Fury doesn't have a talking car." So I think he should have one, or some sort of something that talks. Production staff gave him a talking lift.
I feel like they were just trolling at that point.
I'm not even. They were trolling him. I'm not even joking. He had a talking lift. It is a fun film to watch. It actually does hit all the beats of a Nick Fury story back in that day.
The Howling Commandos.
It looks quite good. Howling Commandos was a long time before. That was Sergeant Nick Fury and the Howling Commandos. A little bit before that time.
But yeah, it's like with MCU, like as both as a comic nerd, I'm massively more of a Marvel nerd. DC, I rarely read DC comics. I only really read like the big ones like Death in the Family, The Killing Joke, and a few and Superman. Is it Kingdom Come? Like, I've only really read, like, and mostly the stuff I've read from DC is Flash stuff, because Flash is the only DC character I've really got, like, really gotten into. And it's like, I'll fully admit that I don't really watch, like, DC stuff that much. But Superman Legacy, genuinely excited for it, because I'm not gonna lie. It's just, I mean,
I've read the source material that it's coming from, and although they're not following that story, it doesn't look like they're following that story at all. They're just using it as reference material. I liked it.
Well, that's the thing with it.
The Trials of Superman was a very good run. I mean, that's not the name of the series, but it's
like
what happens throughout the story.
From watching the trailer, the newest trailer release, where it's like, what is it, Mr. Terrific going, "Come on, help!" and he's like, "I'm doing important things." It's just like, yep. It's like they've captured the point of, like, because everyone goes, "Oh, he's this alien. Why is he not like, oh, do this?" And I'm like, because Superman is meant to be a corny farm boy. He's a farm boy. I mean, he might be an alien. He was raised by humans. Like, he wasn't raised by aliens. He was raised by two human parents. That's the thing.
The other thing I like about it, and I mean, it's not a Superman thing. This is, once again, it's a side character, but it's Green Lantern. In the new trailer, the way he's walking through that battlefield, and he basically just flips off the
tank.
The tank.
He flips the tank over by flipping it off, and I'm like, "Yep, that's Guy Gardner."
So people are slagging off the way this character looks, which unfortunately for them is comic book accurate. Mm-hmm. He looks like a douche. He is a douche. He acts like a douche.
He's Guy Gardner. Unlike Hal Jordan, unlike Michael, the other one, I forgot his name.
Hal Jordan is slick. John Stewart.
That's John Stewart.
John Stewart is very clean cut, very noble.
I mean, Guy Gardner is
Carl
the
Rayner's
dick.
got the heart.
Guy Gardner is
Carl
the
Rayner's
dick.
got the heart.
He's the dickhead.
He's the dick. He's the dude that wants to just sit. He wants to buy a bar so he can sit on the other side of it and drink for free.
Yeah, pretty much.
he's the guy who thinks his bravado is enough to win a fight.
Mm-hmm.
No one's stupid enough to take him down. And that's great because, like, you see that in the comic books. You know, when it's especially in Injustice and in a few others, when Superman or one of the big guys is doing something wrong, and everyone else is pontificating, going, "Well, if he's doing it, there's got to be a reason for them doing it, right? We've got to, you know, I know it seems wrong right now, but if he's doing it, I was like, why are you doing that? Have you gone schizophrenic? You know, you dumb. Because to me, this looks like murder, or to me, this looks like a crime, something we'd normally stop. So tell me why we shouldn't be kicking the shit out of you right now. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, whoever it is. Tell me why.
Oh yeah.
And I love him for it.
Oh yeah, but it's like Guy Gardner is just Guy Gardner. It's like people be like, oh, he looks stupid. I'm like, he's supposed to look stupid. That is Guy Gardner's actual entire appearance. He looks stupid. He's not Hal, like you said. Hal is slick. John is like just straight edge. Basically, he is the. He's the by the books person. It's like for those two, for example, it's just like Guy Gardner, as we say, is the dickhead. He's the guy. He's the asshole. He looks like a douche because he is a douche. It's not.
Another funny thing about not knowing characters and things and people making comment. There was a YouTuber I noticed that I thought, oh, let's have a look. And it's no one. They might be popular. I don't know. It's no one I care about or look of. They were actually slagging off the look of Guy Gardner and the character. And I don't understand why it looks so stupid and like the hair and this, that, and the other. And saying and why pick such an unimportant character out of the Green Lanterns is probably just because they're the two main ones are being used in the TV series. Now, I looked over just by chance. I looked over at What's Next. On her list, What's Next was 20 of the most egregious fridgings in comic books.
What is the most egregious what? Sorry?
Fridgings. Fridgings.
Oh, fridgings.
Now, the reason this made me laugh is because in the video I'm watching, she's saying that this is a completely unimportant character in DC. The other video that seems to have a lot more views is referring to something that happened in the comic books to Guy Gardner's girlfriend when she was beheaded and put into a fridge. And from that moment on, whenever a girlfriend was killed in a comic book, it was known as fridging. I was like, it just made me chuckle. Like, not an important character. You're using something named after him.
Yep. He might not be the most well-known Green Lantern because of Hal being the one that's usually picked for most shows and most things.
Yeah. Hal Jordan, once again, this goes along the same lines of
a Barry Allen
what happened.
Thing.
Well, it is a Barry Allen thing. So in the days of oh bloody hell, I've said his name multiple times. Not Grant Gustin. That's stupid.
Grant Gustin just plays the Flash.
Yeah, Jay Garrick. Jay Garrick's counterpart back in the golden era of the comic books was a guy called Alan Scott, who was the Golden Age Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And they were their counterparts, and they get replaced in Silver Age with Barry Allen and Hal Jordan as the Green Lantern and the Flash. Well, when Barry Allen gets replaced, the next successor to the Green Lantern mythos is John Stewart. And then there was some weird shit that went on in which there was like a shit ton of rings on Earth. So what actually happens, weird enough, is there is multiple sectors now due to some mess-uppery. But we do have Earth itself has its own unique ring, because the ring from the original Green Lantern was that Alan Scott had was, and this has been slightly retroactively changed, but not enough. But a piece, and this is the retroactive change. So in the original, it was a meteorite that lands on Earth.
Yeah.
In the retroactive change, it was a power battery that landed on Earth, and a wizard in ancient China molded it into a fashion lantern and a ring. And he then that was his power source. He loses it. Then Alan Scott finds it one day in a crash.
Yeah.
And he becomes the Green Lantern. And here's the thing: because it is because it was empowered by magic and not just normal Green Lantern will, his is actually affected by wood. He can't do damage to anything wood. And he can't protect himself from anything made out of wood.
So he's on a tree
because so you can hit him. Well, that's it. One of the things in the comic books, he's like hanging off bullets at left, right, and centre, and someone throws a chair at him and knocks him out.
I'm sorry, but the image of that, a Green Lantern dodging bullets, everything else, chair, bang.
Yeah. It does become a key feature later on when parallax becomes a thing, in which you find out all Green Lantern rings have an element of fear built into them, so they can't fight against parallax. Except for Alan Scott's ring that's now been passed down. They've got magical abilities.
There's also what is it? I forget how many colours there are. There's so many colours.
Oh, there's a whole spectrum now. Yeah, I think there's at least 8.
Isn't the reason that one of the comics by Hal Jordan doesn't turn yellow evenly is because he has the willpower to face his fears, basically, or something?
He has turned yellow a couple of times. He is, yeah. I mean, he has the reason he got his willpower back, his green ring back, and got rid of the yellow one was because he had the willpower to fight off his fears and see the true nature of things, and then his green ring overtook. His green emotional spectrum overtook the yellow emotional spectrum, which means the yellow ring had to give over to
the power of will.
The ring. Yeah.
I do find Sinestro's. I do like that Sinestro was actually Hal's friend originally when they met. It's like I like
one of his teachers. Yeah.
Yeah, I do love that. It's the thing about that I like is yes, it's a trope. It's a classic trope in most things of the villain. One of the villains is a former friend. The reason it's a trope is because it gives you that actual connection between the hero and the villain, like a proper connection between the two of them. If that makes sense.
The great thing about Sinestro, though, is it's kind of why certain villains are great. Like Thanos had great because you can see an element of why they're right.
Why they do what they do.
With Sinestro, the reason he created his Yellow Corpse originally was because as much as he could do whatever he could, his planet got attacked whilst the Green Lanterns were out doing a big mission. And he was like, well, no, I was meant to be the one protecting my sector. I couldn't protect my sector because I was doing another job for you. So who was meant to be doing my job then? To an extent. And that is really just a layman's quick basics. There are other elements that go into it. But that's one of the reasons why he creates the Sinestro Corps. And the battery on his home planet. The other thing is that, like you say, him and Hal Jordan are friends. But not only that, Sinestro knows how good Hal Jordan is at his abilities. He has his ability to make constructs is just beyond anyone else's. And the fact is that the yellow ring isn't necessarily about how much fear you have in yourself. It's about how much fear you can
inflict
inflict onto others. And the constructs that he can create, his force of will is something that scares other people. And it's one of the things Sinestro has said, where it's like, the first time I met you, your force of will scared me. And that's literally him just being himself is a source of fear to certain things.
Oh yeah, well, Hal is. It's a good. Yeah, Hal is like one of those characters. It's like what is it? Like, for example, we said before with Barry's whole shtick is Barry is like when we with the Flash, like the reason why the Flash constantly forgets he has super speed or is like written like that is not because of not because of bad writing. It's actually because the Flash might be intelligent, super smart, and like has all these powers. That he is, in the end of the day, still just human. You know what I mean? Like, even though he's a meta-human, like he might think super fast, but the problem is there's still things he's going to forget or not think until it's too late. Because unfortunately, he's like, I think the correct term is, it's not that he's an idiot, it's that he likes to see the good in people. Like, that's the whole point with Barry. Barry Allen always sees the good in people, whereas I'm not sure about as much about Wally and the others, but that's what Barry's whole
he would rather
is.
take a hit. He'd rather take a hit betting on someone else doing good.
Yeah. Like, it's why like the Flash's Rogues Gallery had the whole thing of they don't like, I think the animated show, the Justice League one, showed Barry really well in, like, I think in one of the episodes where like he's with, I think it's Peacemaker in the episode.
No,
not.
Oh yeah, no, Animal Man.
Yeah, he's like, you're not going to arrest him. He's like, and it's like, he's one of his villains. Is in his costume, like in a bar, and Barry's just go take yourself back in. He's like, you got me again, Flash.
He's talking to the Trickster.
Yeah, and it's like, what? And the other guy's, why are you not beating up? Like, I'm like, because Barry knows his villains. His villains have like a strict, like pretty much all of his villains have a strict no kill code. Like they respect him enough to know, because they've probably seen because I think the few times we've seen a villain in, like, not in the show, like in villains that has killed in, like, Star City, it's that villain usually does not appear again.
Yeah, it's
like they all have a respect of, like, why don't you kill people? Simple. We don't kill people. He doesn't kill us. Because there's a reason you don't go after the. It's like the running joke is everyone knows the Flash's identity. It's just they choose not to attack Barry Allen. Why? Because you don't want to piss off Barry Allen.
There is a couple of great stories along those lines. There's one in particular is they always go around one of the secret bars, but there is a great one where a bunch of them are all telling ghost stories. And one tells the story of Batman, one tells the story of Robin, one's Nightwing, and one's telling the story of the Flash. It was like, it's not scary. And they were like, wait a minute, where the fuck have you just been? To the robbery. Where? Oh, that's actually. He mentions it's funny. He's got a story. He's like, where? He's like, Central City.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, but don't worry. No one knows where this place is. You just, and in the background, you see Snark and Ratlock just leave through a side door. Then the Flash comes in.
Aye.
It's like, they finishes out, and then you find out that the guy, in amongst all the shit the guy stole, he stole like a teddy bear, I think it was, off of a kid, or candy from a baby or something like that.
Oh dear!
Like, I want the sucker back. And all the other criminals are like, you motherfucker.
It's like,
here's another one. It's like when they're all in a nightclub. I think it's Injustice, and a couple of a Mirror Master's just been killed, and all of like the Rose Gallery in particular are like, we're gone. We don't need to be doing any part of this, but we're going to have a quick drink for our friend. And then the Flash is just standing there, and everyone starts to scarper, and Snark's like, No, so someone else is like, you're not meant to know about this place. And Snark just looks at him and was like, he knew about this place. He knows about all the places. Like, he's not meant to come here, are you, Harry? He's like, I'm just here to have a drink over your dead friend, and then tell you guys you've got to go. He's like, oh, we're going. We're not going to be here past tonight. Superman's gone nuts. But yeah, that's like one of the nice things. Like one or two of the rogues know. If he wants you, he'll get you.
Oh yeah, it's just like,
9 times out of 10, he just wants you to not be a dick.
well, this thing is it's like central. Why does the Flash like not kill his villains? Because all of his villains have a no kill rule. Why? Because they know not to piss off the Flash. Because it's a smart decision. You don't kill anyone in Central City. Why? Do you want to see what happens when you have a pissed off speedster?
Yeah, well, there was a nice little 2-pager actually many years ago. I think it was in DC Legends book, which was a Panini reprint of a lot of stuff, and they had some nice little 1 or 2-pager stories at the back. And one of them was of a guy that had just robbed a diamond store or whatever it was, and he's getting away in the car, and all of a sudden he notices there's a breeze, and he's like, "Shit, was that the Flash?" He gets out of the car, and he goes out. He goes this route, and there's a light, and he sees something flash. He's like, "Oh, is that the Flash?" And it looks, and you cut to it, and it's just a flashing light on a billboard, but he's now running. And by the end of the poem, he's at the police station. Let me in. I stole this stuff. And then it cuts to Barry Allen just sitting there on the sofa eating a fudge bar. He's like, nothing's happening tonight at all. The guy just shit himself over wind and flashing lights.
Let me in. Why? The Flash is out to get me. It's just like...
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Flash is actually just sitting in his house. He's just sitting at home.
Just waiting for it to happen, bored. Eating fudgicles.
That's the thing. It's like we were just in the show, and now people suddenly seem it's like, oh, it was so shit. Like, I'm like, having rewatched the show, like relatively recently-ish. You know what I mean?
I'll rewatch it every now and again.
Yeah, like
what's up?
Yeah, it's not. It still holds up. It's like as we said, it's not the show. Yes, it's not the best CGI. Like, but then again, it doesn't have the budget that, say, for example, it doesn't have the same budget as, say, like the Eternals has, for example.
Let's put it this way: episode-wise. Mandalorian is. I think the Mandalorian is roughly the same amount as having 2.5 episodes of The Flash. So there's got to be cuts, and where I think they've done it well.
People go, the CGI for him running is really bad, and I'm like, it doesn't feel bad. It feels kind of okay for a show that is a TV show. Like, how else are you supposed to do super speed? I'm sorry, but it still looks way better than the running in.
Ezra Miller Flash was not. Yeah, the dance running, I didn't like it. I didn't like any of it. It didn't look good as, like you say, as a thing.
His costume didn't look that good either. And I'm sorry, but I will fully say the Grant Gustin costume looks a hell of a lot better, despite just being a suit.
All of his costumes look better. All of the, and the fact that they evolved it over time to be a comic book accurate costume, or as close as.
Yeah, like and the fact that we got Red Death, who is technically from the Bat Metal front. The Batman metal thing is like set of like shortly after those comics came out, which for DC at the time was kind of unheard of. Because DC had that lovely thing that they kept doing, where we're not going to put any of the latest characters and villains in these shows.
So Dark, the story where he first appeared, was a few years old at that point.
Yeah, but
Dark Knight Metal.
No, but I mean, like, in
Metal.
terms of, like, most of the villains that DC lets show up in their TV shows.
I mean, to be fair, they did a lot. All of Rebirth, nearly all of the characters or monsters that you saw from the second season onwards, even a few from season 1, were actually the DC Rebirth versions of the characters. Characters like Bloodwork, for example, were only from Rebirth, which was the current running comic at the time. So yeah, 100%, you're right. They were allowing them to do. It was very interesting how much that they were allowed to get away with, really.
Because like, for example, one of my favorite shows that is only Batman is technically Batman adjacent.
Yeah.
Wasn't even allowed to call Jerome or Jeremiah the Joker. They were never allowed to be called the Joker, despite the fact, watching that show, you can clearly tell that's the Joker.
Obviously the Joker. Yeah.
And it's like they're never allowed to call it, and even in the last episode, he's not allowed to be called the Joker. When the last episode that was just a Batman episode.
Like I say, I really, really liked that show, that series.
I did. I loved it.
And it wasn't until recently someone said it on the YouTube thing, and I didn't realise it actually.
What?
But Batman as a franchise, as a concept, is so powerful at Warner Brothers that the city he lives in was given a show. There was a Batman. Let's just look at this. Everything Sony's done with Spider-Man. Can you imagine if they tried to get away with just doing a show called Queens?
Yeah, true. Or
Parker being a 12-year-old kid, orphan, living with his aunt.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. Like, because it's also because, like, the show focused on. I think it also because the show focused on the right character to focus on. If you know what I mean. Like, it picked, this is Gordon's early years.
Everything was right.
It picked Gordon.
I mean,
it's like, yeah, this is brilliant. We get to see how Gordon's. And I'm sorry, but I absolutely love them. I can't remember the actor's name, but you know who I mean, the two actors. The one that played Penguin and the one that played Riddler. They were brilliant in that show. They captured those characters so well.
On. Like I said, there was no other comic book franchise, I don't think, you could say, I want to do an early years version of that area a character grew up in.
Yeah.
And have the character there as even like titular the way that they did. That wouldn't work. I can't see it. I mean, Smallville worked.
Yeah.
But the thing is Smallville was the prototype Gotham in so many ways. And I would argue that it relied I would say it doesn't match the same criteria.
Well, it doesn't, because
that
I think
show relied
far too much on Clark.
That show relied on Clark still having powers, and it followed Clark being Superman, fighting things and keeping his secret identity. Whereas Gotham didn't. It followed, let's say, Gordon.
Yeah.
Yes, going back to what Bruce Wayne was doing, but he was never until later on.
Bruce was just in the entire show was just a side character. He was never a main character. He was never like the major character. He was the side character in the show.
Until he started looking into his dad's death and the whole thing with Jeremiah, he was
just a background character.
He was really only there for He was really only there as Nicole's sidekick.
And I think that it's one of those things. It's as you said, it is a rare way to get away with the show about a character, but you're doing it, and the character is just about a character's origin, but you're doing it in such a way that character that your origin in isn't even the main character of the show. They're the background character. The main character is like is the side character of his actual stuff. One of the side characters in his stories. And it's like,
that's a great way of. There was a great way of doing a very long-winded version of the character's origin that we've never seen before. These are the -0 years. But once again, do it in a way in which it was a police serial. I mean, like I say, you couldn't do it for any other show.
No.
I mean, you could. You couldn't. Let's say Smallville couldn't be a sitcom. It couldn't be a police documentary. It couldn't be a police situational. It couldn't be anything other than Superman just without the cape.
No.
It was never going to be so he becomes the school um, newspaper guy and starts weeding out corruption as a young high school reporter.
No,
it's never going to be that
because he's got his powers already.
Wouldn't be right.
So people are going to want to see him using his powers.
His powers.
And I like, yeah, which unfortunately is the downside of if you do a Superman prequel, where because Batman doesn't have powers and he's a kid at this point, you can get away with doing that because the difference is he's not.
So very well done. But yeah, at some point now, there's no other franchise that you could get away with doing that with. You literally just had the power of saying that character will be Bruce Wayne. This is the place he grew up in. Watch it. And that's really what brought people in. No one knew it was going to be good until they watched it. I would argue no one knew it was going to be good until the first 4 episodes were done.
Oh yeah, I will agree there. I will say it's the minute that Oswald and Edward, like the minute those two got together, teamed up, is my opinion is where the show really did just keeps taking off more and more, because the two of them just worked off each other so well. Like
Universe kept working off each other as well. You could see it. You could see this shitty, corrupt place getting worse.
Yeah, like as the show kept going on, it's evolving more and more into Gotham that we know and associate with Batman. Like as shit gets worse and worse as the series goes on. And yeah,
see why these crazy characters would have come out of a place like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very well done. That's what, I suppose that goes then back into why there's an issue with Batman in the James Gunn universe. He's going to be such a big character that,
he doesn't want to just do a film that's like, oh, yeah, here's Batman. He wants to do, like, he wants him to, when he does him, he wants to have him as, like, yeah, he exists for a reason. He doesn't want to just go, oh, yeah, here's a Batman movie because, you asked for one. Which I agree with. I'm fully on board with that because I'm sorry, but...
Oh, yeah.
Just doing Batman for the sake of, oh yeah, now we need to have a Batman movie is just, what's the point? Because we've seen his origin so many times, and we've had so many of his best stories kind of already done, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of, yes and no. There's a few there that really haven't been touched, but the problem is you need to go through a lot of the other story.
Yeah.
The problem with a lot of what they did in the past with Batman is
a lot of his
they started to give the underlying stories for big stories to come later on, which are cool ones we all want to get to, and you kind of need the underlying story to get to the complex stuff. But because we've seen the underlying stories played out so many different times in so many different ways, they've become boring.
Yeah.
And it kind of blocks off the great stuff. We're never going to see Batman in a Mobius chair, which is kind of unfortunate. And we're probably never going to see.
We're on a very. We might never see Terry McGinnis, in honesty.
And that's it. Yeah, we've lost that chance. We had a great chance for that.
Because every time they try and establish him, they can't. Because every time they try and do the stuff to set up that, it's just DC. They keep rebooting, and it's like, I think the problem is that, I think Disney's realised that they need to stop that. People are going, oh, this isn't the right thing to do when we're just saying they're going to spend less on the films. And I'm like, actually, I agree with them wanting to spend less on their movies a bit. Because then they don't have to make as much back. It's like, they don't need to spend as much.
They need to stop. In all honesty, this is the stuff that they've now been saying. They need to stop the reshoots. They need to stop making footage that forces people into a situation.
They've also, as I said, that's why they're stopping the connection between the, the actual.
It's going to be loose connection now, rather than
you need to watch.
Story.
Yeah, rather than you need to watch this show to know what the fuck is going on. Here's a loose connection between the two shows. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy watching. I will watch every Marvel TV show, so for me, it's not going to affect me. But I understand why, because the average person isn't going to just go buy Disney Plus to go and watch Daredevil or Jessica Jones, who has apparently been confirmed to returning in season 2 of Daredevil, which makes me really happy. We are getting Jessica Jones back.
On that note, weirdly enough, on that note, with things that have been heard and said and rumored, it's looking like we are. I'm wondering if we're not going to get 3 seasons of Daredevil. We're going to get 2 seasons of Daredevil and then a Defenders. Exactly the same way we did on Netflix. 2 seasons of Daredevil and Defenders.
It was 2 seasons of Daredevil and then a season of each of the other shows as well before we got Defenders.
Oh yeah, but I
don't think we'll get a season of the other shows. I think the only ones that they could possibly bring back that was just as popular as Daredevil, because the only one that got nearly as many seasons was Jessica Jones, because she was the only one that got like nearly as many seasons, because she got like the second most season out of the Netflix ones.
Yes, they did, but that was in a weird way. That was very much down to. I mean, it was good. It was a good show, and so not the only reason, but the predominant reason is that show did have David Tennant on character list.
Oh yeah, only in the first season.
Massive. No, he
was only in season 1. He died in season 1. He dies right at the end of season 1.
So, the Purple Man doesn't.
Die. He does die. He gets his neck snapped right at the end of season 1. In the comics, he has regeneration powers. In the show, he doesn't. Because at the time, they weren't allowed to use mutants still, because they didn't have they didn't yet have Fox, so he didn't have his mutant powers yet. I have watched that show 7 times. He dies at the end of the first season. She snaps his neck.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but that character was still on their list to be reused. He was still, he still could have been called in.
But yeah,
and that would have been on for a while.
Yeah, but yeah, and he dies in the first season. I think if they'd have got Brong back, if they'd have carried on, we'd have gotten the whole reveal of him being a mutant and having the whole regeneration. Because even the Netflix stuff was starting to slowly hint at mutants existing. That's the funny.
To be fair, they all had. I mean, they had mutant powers. Well, not mutant powers. They had enhanced powers. I mean,
yeah.
Jessica Jones didn't get her abilities from working in the gym. Neither did.
No, they're all enhanced. They're all enhanced individuals. That was the thing.
I'm saying. So I mean, his regeneration powers
would have been his. Yeah, but I'm on about in the comics. He's a mutant, and in the show, his only powers established was his mind control stuff. They didn't establish his other powers in the show. Sadly, they only established his mind control.
He has multiple different ways of doing it, so it would have been however they chose to do it later on.
Yeah, they didn't later on. I think what would have happened is it would have been that stressful situation, where that situation of her snapping his neck, and then throw it, discard the body, would have been him coming back, and he would have come back with possibly come back with his iconic part of the comics. What colour is his skin in the comics, and the reason he's called Purple Man?
Well, that's what I was thinking. He would probably be he would come back as one of the Purple Children.
Yeah,
and that's how he get reborn in.
But yeah, it's one of those things. In the show, he didn't have his regeneration at the time because they never got that far. But but I did enjoy the villains for this, like the second and thingy season though. Like I did actually. That show had really good characters. Like everything in that show was really well done. Like unlike Iron Fist, and I'm sorry, but I think the whole problem with Iron Fist, in my entire opinion, is the actor that played Danny Rand was shit.
Awful.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like don't get me wrong. I will fully admit that. I think that people complaining that why is Danny Rand not being played by an Asian dude were like, I get that you're on about this with Iron Fist, but this is the first Iron Fist, not the second. The second Iron Fist is Asian. The first one was a white dude. That is the part of the comics from it. The first Iron Fist wasn't Asian.
Once again, it comes down to people gatekeeping comics that they've never read.
Yeah. Like, I am not an expert on every single comic. I don't know every single character. But I do know majority of the characters that have been in most of the Marvel shows and stuff because they're characters I've read and seen on shows and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, they're the characters that I've seen growing up, and so it's like, or read the comics of when growing up, because like Spider-Man is a character that I grew up reading comics of. The X-Men are characters I grew up reading comics of. You know, like these are the ones that I most associate with, because they're the ones that were the ones that in general were my favorite like characters.
I mean, I think it's time though that these companies, Marvel or DC, doesn't matter, they show how big their budgets and their balls are, and give us characters. The Condiment King.
Give us
2-hour extravaganza. Just a full $1 billion movie budget of the Condiment King. Someone like that.
Of one of the joke villains that we have. Because the joke villains, yeah, they're not the scariest, but I'm sorry, but they are. Some of them are actually just brilliant.
I mean, what got me, it made me laugh, and it's a real shame. I know we're going to have to wrap up soon, but this is it was part of the whole CW run. Stargirl. Absolutely love Stargirl. But in the UK, it is not legally available to get season 3, the final season, anywhere. Can't buy it. It was never released.
Oh, not even on Amazon.
Not even available. 1 and 2 is available. Season 3 was never made available to us. So it only was made available in Germany and in America.
Whose logical idea was that?
Well, the whole thing went bust. Because they weren't actually part of the CW. They were part of the whole HBO thing, where the Superman was meant to be on there, and you had Swamp Thing and all that.
I will still admit, I'm still sad that the last CW show that, like, even for the finale of it, right? Like the last one, you know which show I'm on about. The last one of the CW ones, the Superman and Lois. I'm still sad that they were like, not even for the finale would they even try and get the thing. Just have like a send off of at least bring back one of the other CW show actors for like just for the finale. You know what I mean?
Yes, I get what you mean. I
get why. I fully understand the reason why, because they had to establish it as a separate universe when they were making it. But like, it would have been like just a nice send off.
Could have done something though, because you know, they could have had in that loop run towards the end. You could have had my cousin Kara appeared after many years stuck in nowhere. And you have Melissa Benoist there as Kara, you know, and it'd be her new version.
Just as a finale. It's like but I mean that was a stupid decision to do what they did there anyway. Especially since wasn't the Flash running? Wasn't the last 2 seasons, like when the last seasons of the Flash, running the same time the first season of that show even was running? Or did that show start after? I can't remember. 100%.
I believe the last 2 seasons running concurrently. That's why they didn't make any announcement until the end of the last episode. Because you've got to remember, they just decided not to mention it. But you have that weird scene in which John Diggle turns up wearing exactly the same clothes and haircut as he does in that week's episode of Flash. So that made it look like it was the same universe. Because he even talked about going over to Metropolis. It was like, well, you ended up in Smallville. Okay. So that made it all look connected. And it wasn't until the very last episode where Sam Lane then says, "Oh, he's the only enhanced person we've actually got on this planet." We've heard of others from other universes, though. To me, that was them finding out that everything was closing down. You're not going to get any crossovers in the future. So make this your own universe, however long you've got left.
It's a sad thing. It's one of those sad things.
I think if they had turned around at that point and said, no, we're all in the same universe as the Flash and the Arrow and all that stuff, but all those shows have now shut down. All the actors have moved off to do so. You're now another year into your run on the 2nd season, coming into the 3rd and going, all right, so can we get Grant Gustin back?
Nope.
Okay, can we get Melissa Benoist back? No.
No, you can't get them back.
You know the guy who played Turtle in season 6, episode 5. We can get him.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck it! We can get the guy who played Nash back.
I quite like that they got Mark Hamill back in the Flash to play the OG trickster basically, and then have Barry.
They kind of did him twice, didn't they? Because they had him as a future version of the Wesley Shipp version.
No, they had him as the dad of the Wesley Shipp version, and then they had it the OG trickster being funny part of it, and then they had him as it show up again when Barry goes to get other Barry from the other universe.
That's right. So no, we get our version, and then we get an alternate version. We don't see Wesley Shipp arrest his version again, do we?
No, we just see him as himself once. I think that's it.
There's the pimp version with the Joker makeup, which was sort of a knock to the fact that he also plays the Joker, which I think was the alternate reality one, wasn't it? Where he's got all the weird makeup on.
Yeah, and there's also the young kid who's his son that plays him as well. Plays the second.
That's in our reality. That's not our reality. That's in.
Yeah, and then we get old man him in prison, who Barry uses to question him to find out what this trickster's going to do. Who then turns out later revealed is the father of this trickster.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the same.
And he's the original trickster from this universe.
That's our reality one.
Yeah, because Barry's reality has two: an OG trickster from before the Flash, and his version, which is the kid, which is his son.
Yeah, so we got to remember John Wesley Shipp's character in this universe was never a Flash. He was just Barry's dad.
Yeah.
No,
but I'm on about there's two tricksters in Barry's universe. Is what I'm on about. There's an old trickster that the police used to deal with, and then there's that's played by Mark Hamill, and then there was his son.
Yeah.
His son who became the Barry's trickster, and then Mark Hamill reappears later when he goes to visit other Barry, who is who's technically OG Flash Barry from the original series, fighting off against the trickster.
I'm just talking about original Mark Hamill versions. So yeah, there's like I say, there's the one from our timeline that's the dad of the modern day trickster. You've got one in the alternate reality with the sort of Joker makeup and the big purpley costume, and then you've got the one from the John Wesley Shipp universe, which was in the series and in his film, the third film, it's a trickster film.
I did like that they did that when Flash has to die at Crisis. He didn't say which one. I did like that little bit of right as he goes to sacrifice himself. You get the little flashback scene to the OG show.
Yes,
I actually agree. I actually was like, yeah, that was a good way of doing a send off to the original. Just going.
Weirdly enough, we also we had multiple hints of that was him, because the woman that played his. Basically his version of I'm forgetting everyone's bloody names now. Woman, the female character, she was a scientist in the modern day Flash, and when they meet for the first time, he looks at us like, "Do I know you? You?" And it's like, "No, I don't. We don't know each other." So there was kind of a hint that Flash was that Flash being that woman. Oh no, I'm wrong. That's a different Flash. Because that was a Jay Garrick Flash. The one meeting Crisis is a Barry Allen Flash played by John Wesley Shipp.
Yeah, we meet him. He plays Jay Garrick, the original Jay Garrick, the actual Jay Garrick, and he plays Barry. He plays himself as Barry Allen twice in the show.
Barry Allen from the original show, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what they did. They gave him a send off with the OG Barry.
In my head, I'd connected the fact that the actress played the scientist and the two had met, and they have that meet cute there.
No,
like, oh yeah.
No, they just happen to you know what? How about this as a nice little reference to the original?
Sure.
We'll get her back to play Jay Garrick's wife, and that way it's like they're reunited again, which is a really good.
No, she wasn't Jay Garrick's wife.
She remember he marries her eventually. Her and Jay get married. That was the whole.
Because
Remember, he's Uncle Jay, and she's their aunt, the kids.
That woman gets killed. Remember, Jay Garrick marries a version of Barry's mum.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the scientist gets killed by Zoom.
Hello, Zoom. Zoom. I do love that when we finally get Cobalt Blue in the finale, that when Zoom meets Thrawn, Thrawn just calls him a copycat. It's like Reverse Flash is calling Zoom because it is I think, isn't it a slight tongue-in-cheek reference to the fact that originally at one point they were somewhat the same character but not the same character comics wise.
It is so complicated. So Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash, and there is another one, Negative Flash, are all the same. Have all basically turned out to be the same character, under different names and guises. So when they made this character, and he was like, "Oh, you've got Zoom and you've got the Reverse Flash." Well, wait a minute. What? But yeah, they're all technically different versions and the same version at different points in time. It's very funny.
Oh yeah, it's just like I like how they did that as a tongue-in-cheek joke to reference that they are all literally the same person, different points.
That's the thing that took us out though, was the fact that we had an Eddie Thorne as a character
right at the start,
and everyone was like, "Well, this is the Flash. This is going to be Thorne. We're going to get Reverse Flash. This will be a big villain." And we knew it was going to be the big villain. He was. It wasn't the Thorne we were looking for.
No, I absolutely loved the way they did the whole Eddie Thorne thing. Like, it was a bit late, but I was like, I'm sorry, but I love the idea that Eddie died at the start. It's like, it's not. Yes, he's dead. He killed himself to stop Thorne existing in the first place, and then history rewrites him back into existence because it has to. It's like,
and it's all because of what Ichabod's doing as Reverse Flash. Or whatever you want to call him, Zoom.
Yeah.
He's because he kept himself in the timeline for all these different paradoxes. In one of those paradoxes, at least, his ancestor had to survive.
Yep. What I do love though is that the way they did when Cobalt Blue did show up, it was just you were like, it actually made sense because it was Eddie straight up taken up out of the timeline when he initially disappeared. So as far as he knows, like he's just put back into it at the modern point, and it's like, as far as he knows, Iris just basically abandoned him and moved on immediately, because he's still like at the exact same, like his mental state is still the same as when he was originally alive. And it's
I mean, I said I think we both come to the same agreement. We disagree with the haters.
Yeah, like it's not a perfect show. Never going to say that it is a perfect show, but for a show that had only a fraction of the same budget, a fraction of the budget of of a full movie. Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm fully in the mindset that they did the best they could with a hell of a fraction of a budget.
Here's the other thing that people forget as well, and something that people shouldn't forget, because Warner Brothers did bad here. We were well on our way to establishing a TV show interconnected universe bigger than what the MCU was at the time. They were planning on, they weren't being allowed to have Superman, they weren't allowed to have Batman during all this.
Because they were always being kept for the movies. That's the way it works.
Stargirl, Green Lanterns, they had Stargirl, which was originally going to be the Justice Society, became Stargirl. You had all these great shows coming out, and all of a sudden, DC went, "You know what we're going to do? All the stuff that hasn't come out yet, we're going to put on our own unique streaming service, and you'll only be able to watch it there.
Yep.
Unless you're in one of the countries that isn't America, then you can't watch it unless we've pre-sold it to Amazon, and Amazon only bought something.
Mm-hmm.
And something died on its arse because no one knew it existed, because they didn't promote it, because it was the only thing that wasn't only on their service.
Yeah. It was also the fact that it was also at that time, that was when the MCU was beginning to pick up, because that was the point when they'd finally realised to connect everything together. That was the point when they started connecting it together. And they'd
already started. They had already put the outlays there, but it was when everything was starting to ramp up.
Because it was, I think, when the CW started getting like really popular, started getting thingy. It was the point when Avengers came out.
Universe as well.
And I think Avengers is what changed Disney's like whole thing from being it's okay, it's just the MCU's not that big to this is now, we can now see all these characters that they're doing separately together in one film and stuff.
Yeah, we were so close to. People forget the shows that were actually out on the plan for the shows that were out on the DC only show. We had Constantine, we had Swamp Thing, we had Deadman coming. We had a Dr. Fate show coming.
Mm-hmm.
And what would that... the only thing that could culminate in was this League Dark. We only got there with Constantine, and we only got Constantine and Swamp Thing. But if they were allowed to be in the CW, the Arrowverse...
Constantine showed up in the Arrowverse at least once, which was nice.
He did. He finally did.
I actually enjoyed it when he showed. The thing is, the guy that played him is so good at playing him, but I'm sorry, but they need to give him give him a show again.
More. Thing is, even Swamp Thing, they did. I implore everyone to watch Swamp Thing. I do believe it's still available on Amazon for free.
It is.
It is awesome. It is just done right. But on that note, for late.
It is a bit late. We're going to end the stream. We'll be back in 2 weeks, hopefully. I'm going to say goodbye. Like, subscribe, continue to watch the channel. I'll be back on Sunday with another streaming Sunday as per normal.
Watch Swamp Thing.
Watch Swamp Thing. Jax has recommended you to watch Swamp Thing. I can't disagree with him. It is a good show. Now, I'm going to say goodbye. And is it goodbye from you as well, Jax?
I'll say goodbye. Why not?
All right. Goodbye. We'll be back as